Welcome everyone to day two of the KARDS Naval Warfare Expansion Tournament. We are very happy to see you here, and in just a moment we will pull up one of the player cards for you to get acquainted with our players here today. Well, actually, we're going to show you the bracket first. So
So
we can
we go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, my bad. So we can see the events of yesterday. We have Taboo and Psy making it through the top half of the bracket, and SYS and Radish making it through in the bottom of the bracket. Radish notably going 3-0 off his 4-1 streak in the Swiss rounds, which is very interesting because he did not drop a single game in the last expansion tournament. So we will see if he keeps up this incredible pace. But before we get to that, we are going to be looking at Taboo and Size decks, and then we will be bringing you through the games. First up, we have Taboo's decks. First off, we have a Commandos deck. This one's a little interesting in that it's using the 1-2-3s as a way to get another copy of a Commando or to make another Wellington for lots of burst potential at the end of the game. We have a really star of the show deck that we've seen a lot in this tournament, this Japan Soviet hyper aggro list. We have a German US ramp slash mid range that takes advantage of the 1-2-3s, the Bergman Battalion, the Michigan. This deck does a lot of things, a lot of powerful things, but can be a little vulnerable in the early game, as most ramp decks are. And finally, we have the inverted version of this deck, which is much less common to see, with the US main and the Germany minor. And this will be a very interesting deck to keep tabs on as it goes on, because it is sort of an idea that needs to be proven in this tournament today, how effective it will end up being. Would you like to take us through size decks, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. So here we see size deck. What you'll notice right off the bat, his first two decks are basically an inverse of each other. We have Japan Soviet and Soviet Japan. We can see them both kind of focusing on the same packages here. We've got Combs, which is this new card that lets you kind of put out this unit that's worth 2 credits for 1 credit and kind of kick that 1 credit down the road. We also have in the Soviet version, we have the Tomahawk, which we saw a little bit yesterday. Kind of an old card making a nice return here, giving a buff to a lot of the infantry, certainly an infantry focused deck. But both this Japan Soviet and Soviet Japan are meant to go real fast. They are sort of the new aggressive standards for what we have. And then moving on to a third deck, we have the Japan Germany. So pretty interesting one here, foregoing the US flavor, foregoing the kind of 1-2-3 shenanigans that have been so popular. This is a burn deck that, is just straight up burn, going right for the throat. The Makura helping bring that along as well with the pin that it can provide. And then, of course, giant things like Bismarck and even the new Tirpitz card providing a good bit of burn. And then lastly, we have the Commandos deck that we have been seeing quite a lot at this tournament. Not too much to speak of in specifics. Pretty bog standard, like Berto just said for the last one. We've got tons of ramp and we've got tons of Commandos. No 1-2-3s in this one though. That is a bit of a unique shenanigan for Taboo. The 1-2-3 is certainly proving to be super powerful so far. So we will see how all that stacks up into each other. And wow, yep, you can see both Japan decks getting banned right away. that you know, Jaguar's back. It's different. It's flavored just a little bit differently, but we are right back to banning an aggro Japan deck right off the bat. No thought, just do it.
Yeah, it's interesting this Japan Soviet because, you have a little less potential in how much pressure you can put out when your opponent doesn't really do anything. But when your opponent is getting, early guards and these sort of things, then the rushes just let you plow through, which is really, really dangerous.
Yeah, this new rush card is so efficient, right? Like at some point, like we don't even have to tell you that 5 damage for 1 credit is efficient. You can read that and you can know it. But you know, the drawback of the card obviously is a bit of RNG. It's doing 5 damage to a random unit. But certainly early game, with it being only 1 credit, early game it basically is just removal. And then you know, it's not really hard to organize a situation to sort of manufacture a situation where they only have 1 unit, maybe they have 2 units and both of them need to die, but something along those lines where rush is just about as targeted as it needs to be.
It looks like Sai is ripping this U375, gets an encirclement. That seems okay in this matchup to like an okay hit.
Yeah, there's certainly could be worse hits. Starting with the burn, Sai perhaps looking for that first win with burn, as maybe this is the harder deck for him to win with, would you say?
Um, yeah, you can see how this matchup might be hard with the 6/6s coming down early. There's not a lot of answers for these. You do have the pins from Mikura, but that only will last you for so long. So I think it will likely depend on if Sai can find something like a Gifu here in the next couple of turns.
Oof, and that retreat is going to be helpful. Silencing a 6/6, basically only taking a draw via suppressions synergy with air units. You know, not really much to actually get off that 6/6, truly just wasting a suppress for a draw. Doesn't love the situation he's in. But as you can see, right, second naval about to come down. We've got Makura in hand. We've got burn cards in hand. So we're about to start slapping our opponent around here.
Yeah, he will only have access to one pin per turn, and this P-51B looks to be another very threatening target and a duress for the second Marines. It looks like it's leaning in favor of Taboo here.
Certainly is a huge suppression, right? The great part about Makura in these burn decks is Makura is constantly replacing itself. You only need to find one Makura, and you've essentially found all four. So that provides you with just a lot of utility on the pin, but obviously the synergy with your naval, hoping for 3 burn damage every time. And Lord knows, I mean, the burn player never feels better than when they have a naval down and they're able to play turpits as well for that juicy 8 burn damage, and you can't play a unit next turn.
Yeah. But an issue here for Sai is that he's played a lot of naval cards already. Even if you find more of these second Marines, it presents a really big problem how you are going to be able to trigger the damage on them.
Yeah, certainly not a card that you're bringing for its stat line. When you get to use the stat line, it's certainly not bad, right? 3/6 and the shock can sometimes be a little helpful, but that unit is certainly in your deck just to be a sort of conduit for that burn damage.
Taboo
Depth
takes the
charges.
depth charges.
Certainly an interesting choice. Nuke's very far away, and not necessarily worth thinking about yet or going up to, but really just avoiding getting hit by the folk wolf here.
Yeah, although you are taking 2 damage from the Shibata, so it's effectively saving you 2 defense on that HQ.
It's not quite seem worth it to me, but
Yeah, well, my thought was whether you could go for the penicillin this game, because that would be huge against this burn deck.
and it would certainly offer you a lot more stall than the net 2 health Taboo was able to achieve. Having to play 2 orders to, as you astutely put out, 2 orders to actually get the death charge used, so that's 2 pings by the Shibata. Encirclement has been really interesting, right? We've seen it in a couple of these decks. Hasn't made like a huge impact quite yet, but again, interesting to see kind of one of these older cards come back with a bit of a vengeance.
Yeah, well, what better target is there than a Greed cost 6/6 with Blitz?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
guess I guess Encirclement gives it Blitz anyways, but the point still stands.
You used to have to build a bunch of Alpine guys just to get a 6/6 with encirclement.
Yeah.
So big turn here for Sai. Obviously, he wants to get that second Marine down so he can start playing naval cards. But he's going to have to clean up his backline first. He's also looking 12 damage in the eye with only 14 health, so he's certainly not a comfortable camper currently.
Yeah, and that was a really aggressive play from Taboo to just send the 6 damage to the HQ rather than take out this fighter. I don't hate it by any means, uh, but the game is ending quickly one way or another.
Uh, with Taboo basically just having as many 6/6s as he could dream of. Will bring himself down to 6. Could be slightly dangerous, but the Devil's Brigade and a buff, we're going to get there exact. We needed 2 more damage, and we were able to find 2 more damage relatively quickly, relatively efficiently. A good lead.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the deck that, you know, uh, some of us weren't as certain about because, it's not as tried and tested on ladder. When you bring these more experimentalists, sometimes, it pays off really effectively like this. Sometimes you can get stuck on it.
I think it's also interesting, right? We saw a match yesterday, and I believe it might have even been the quarterfinal that Sai won to make it to today's stage, where the opening match of the best of 3 was the Commandos mirror. And as soon as one person had a Commandos win and one person had a Commandos loss, Sai's opponent was never able to find a good matchup for his Commandos deck after he lost the mirror. Never found the Commandos win, and just kind of sort of found themselves out of the tournament, right? Now we have this where both these players have Commandos and both a little reluctant to play it. They haven't taken it out yet. Granted, it's only game 2, only 2 chances for each guy. But I do wonder how that is sort of weighing on these players' minds, what the difference between that deck's power level is for these guys mentally after yesterday's arrangements.
Yeah, I mean, my personal opinion would be that, Commandos is obviously an incredibly powerful deck, but it is also vulnerable to a few specific things. And, these players are very teched for Commandos in a lot of ways. And that can make it really hard to find a win on that deck if you don't uh, get the win earlier on in the most favorable matchup for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is looking like an insane winter warfare. You trade the routed troops, you get a recon down, you get 2 kills with the winter warfare, you get a draw, you get +2 attack and shock on this new 1/5. And it looks
Just
like Sai is eyeing up that play himself.
only one man left in our final four, and it is, our the plot armor god himself, Radish. Uh, he is not bringing commandos. Our other three players have it today, so we will definitely see. It will be very interesting if Radish is able to run the gamut today, go the full distance, and win a consecutive expansion tournament, being the only guy in the top four with no commandos, while everyone else has teched four commandos. Might be a really brilliant deck pool, really brilliant option in his lineup. You do a lot. You do a lot for these tournaments before you even get to the tournament.
Certainly. Taboo under a ton of pressure. He has managed to get a lot of his ramp off. And he has 2 draws at the start of this turn, thanks to War Bonds. Arado could be
Turpitz.
something. Turpitz is pretty much useless right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Bergman will get him a attack off, but the 2 damage from Bergman is only going to get that recon cleared, which obviously does not do a lot of help when he's sitting at 7 out of 8. But he is technically presenting lethal, right? He's technically presenting 8 out of 8, so of
That's
course
true,
the
but
routed
route,
troop, yeah, is
yeah,
obviously gonna weigh in heavily.
that is a huge rip off of the Arado. One of the best things you could find. Suppress also would be up there.
Yeah, but even suppress wouldn't take it all the way down to a 1-1, and with only 8 health left. Yeah, basically throwing Turpitz out just because not a whole lot to do with these credits. Maybe it'll help him manage the situation. Sai not able to add to his board here. KB1 also starting to loom a little large, right? If we only need to KB1 essentially meaning we only need to get down to 2 health here. We don't need Taboo. We don't need to get the last 8. We've got 2 in hand from the KV. Really, we just need
Yeah.
6.
Um, you could even bring your opponent to 4, and then if they ever play a War Bonds again, you can play the KV in response.
Yeah.
That's maybe a little bit ambitious, because you have to worry about Alpenfesting as well. Setting your opponent's HP back up to 25 would be really tragic.
Yeah, let's see here. Do we are we forced to flying bomb here?
Most likely, but you can play Panzer 3H first, and you might find something better, such as
Yeah.
another Bergman.
Yeah, another Bergman would be very clutch. The Alpine would get it to a 3-4. It would be able to take out the 2-3, buy some time, get him a draw. We're gonna go flying bomb right
Now,
away.
now this I don't understand, because you're still playing the Panzer 3H, right?
I would assume that you're
Like, there's
probably
no other line.
yeah, you're definitely not enigmaing for 1.
Shifting attack,
Uh
so you can take the front line. Okay, so this plays specifically around the SU-100, um, which is understandable. You saw a lot of SU-100s coming out at the perfect time yesterday,
good point.
right as your opponent was at 8 health.
They made a really big impact. And now we're right
Oh,
back. We can't Panzer now. I mean, even greater point, right? When we said, it was kind of crazy to not play your draw tank. Now you can't play your draw tank. So there's no way to look for an answer there. 2 draws in hand with only 2 health and KV on the board means that half of your hand is absolutely useless. It will just kill you. Comet's not going to get you anywhere. Not enough damage
well,
to scratch the tank. We'll
you
scratch it, but
can stay alive. You have to
one.
sack the Bergman and then 1, 2, 3s and Comet and both
Right.
comets into the KV. It's the only way.
We assume we'll see it because it's certainly better than a forfeit.
And you have to sack the Bergman, of course, because it would draw off the convert of the 1-2 Grease, which would kill you.
Which
So
is
it
a,
is
a
sad that you have to lose that unit.
very nice catch by Taboo. That is certainly not immediately seen. Yeah, getting a comb as the only unit. I think I would have thrown down the comb before grabbing the draw. Uh, could have got maybe another unit there or something. Obviously he's floating 4 now, so could have maybe
Yeah,
used another dollar. Might not have made a big difference, but who knows?
I
Really, when
think
you're
the I
scratching for the last little bit of health. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
all good. I think the idea was that if you find the SU, you would be left with the exact amount of credits to be able to operate it and kill your opponent that very turn.
That's a good point. But in a roundabout way, Sai gets to exactly where he needs to go. Not able to play his aggro list of choice, but of course the inverse is extremely close with a close power level. And that will work for him just fine.
Now we can see Sai's opening hand. We see that he's going first, and that he has a protected convoy in hand, which looks to be very strong, but 2 copies of the War Machine for Taboo um, is even better.
I'll draw for Sai. Blessed again here with some asynchronous gameplay, baby. We got the Commander's Mirror once again.
And that oh, what's the name? National Fire Service, reducing all your damage taken to 1. Not so good in the Commando's Mirror, as it turns out.
You say this, but just wait when this huge Ranger's turn sets up, and he's able to half the damage that he would be taking in to face only. Right? It doesn't help any of those pings that are hitting units. But Sai able to find some ramp here, ramp on both sides, so both players starting to get going. Nobody's able to find a commando yet.
Yeah, Taboo even looking at playing out the 1-2 Grease so that he can use that for freedom, but opts against that line.
It's
It would
two
have been a pretty
commando
extreme
raids,
line to take. Yeah, 2 commando raids is pretty crazy.
but now with a thick hand and not a lot of places to send commando raid, able to hit face, going to be super helpful here.
Yeah, you don't really want to commando raid, on 5 when you're so close to, getting so much better off of it, but you don't want to mill either, and everything else in your hand draws or can't target anything.
And you made a point yesterday, Berto, about sort of the back and forth, the fencing match of the Commando's Mirror, where sometimes getting your commandos out first can be a detriment because getting your commandos out first is ways for them to maybe use their removal, get their commandos out, get some pings. When your commandos come out first, you're only able to hit face. So when theirs come out, they're able to maybe take out your commandos. Obviously, whoever loses all their commandos first is probably going to lose the game here.
Yeah, well, sometimes it comes to who runs out of commandos, sometimes it comes to who gets killed on turn 6. I
Yep,
I
and here
think
we
this
go.
is lethal. Yeah.
We've got a ton of commandos. We've got a ton of low cost orders. We're suppressing our own dudes. You're taking all the pings, taking them all.
Yeah, and that was a quick one. I mean, two commando raids for one player, and neither for the other. They both hit the ramp effectively, but that's only one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and that's I believe 2-0 in commando mirrors for Sai. Able to take hopefully a second set here, maybe make his way to the finals off of another Commandos mirror win. And we see here both players knowing that that was quick. Yeah, no waiting, no bathroom breaks here. We're going right into the next game. Tilt factors might be coming into play.
Yeah, and we talked just a moment ago about, how you're able to tech against commandos and how that makes it like an interesting decision whether you bring it or not. We do see why a lot of players just bring it anyways, despite the deck being so heavily teched for, because it can just absolutely go off.
Yeah, it truly doesn't need to necessarily wait for anything either. And if the other player playing into the commandos is a little too slow, doesn't have anything to do, then that means your face is wide open. There's nowhere for those random pings to go. Early turn 4 Turpits.
Yeah, I mean, if your opponent is playing burn, they haven't played anything turns one, two, three, you can bet your bottom dollar that they have some Gifus or some second Marine stuck in there, if not both.
Yeah, finally planning to have a turn, but unable to do so. That is the main difference between these decks, right? Both players are certainly utilizing a burn heavy strategy here, but the side nation, right? Your minor nation is different. Side putting a lot of value in these Gifus. You can see he has 3 of them in his hand right now. He's running a full stack of Gifus. And Japan is not necessarily the most common burn ally for Germany, so he certainly has a lot of faith in those Gifus.
Yeah. I like this Admiral Hipper a lot over the War Bonds. You saw your opponent did not play a one-cost Navy card, specifically that Mikura, with the Gifu last turn, which you imagine they would if they could. So this way, if they're sitting on a higher cost Navy card like an Admiral Hipper themselves, then you very effectively play around that.
SNLF also a little useful here, but we need some cheap naval cards. Another Gifu. Looks like he is holding a second Marines back until he finally finds some of those naval cards. All of his combo and all of his synergy potential sort of is inherent on finding those to use with his navals, to use with his Folkwolves, generate some extra money.
Yeah, and if you're Taboo here, I have to imagine you feel a little happy about your opponent not using the Gifu last turn, but at the drop of a hat, a Navy card can be drawn and all your luck can turn around.
Yeah, like right now. This is looking to be a big turn. We're going to be able to get 2 Gifus buffed, one of which is going to have an attack this turn. We're going to get the burn from the naval unit. We're going to draw Turpits on these draws. So now we've got Shock. We've got a 2-2 getting a little bit of buff. We got all the Makuras coming. And just like that, the board that he prepared, he finally just draws into these naval cards, and now the board is cooking.
You have a lot of credits for Taboo, but it's hard to make room to get the draw off this Enigma. You can trade off an errata or two. You can do a 1-2 breeze into a Bergman, and then maybe get a Michigan down. That could even get you a couple of credits back.
Certainly
This
with
Alpenfestung, of course, a huge draw.
yeah, absolutely. When you've got, a 20 credit turn from synthetic oil, and you've got a full 9 card hand, and you've got the Michigans to make money as you go, you are able to do quite a lot. A huge APM turn here for Taboo. This is a lot of actions.
Yeah, and he says, I don't even need the Alpenfestung. I'm able to deal 8 with the Comets, leave you at 8 defense, but the Turpits can delay Death to Comets for a turn, but then the Alpenfestung comes down.
Yeah, absolutely. It almost feels like Turpitz is going to, be a huge deal. If you're Psy, you're able to think I would be dead to these comments, but I can avoid this for like a little bit. But perhaps just delaying the inevitable. Psy hoping and praying to maybe play to his Bismarck out, but as you said, certainly doesn't know that Alpenfesting is in Taboo's hand. And as long as he has an opportunity to play it, I have to imagine the burn dream for Psy, at least this game, is going to die.
And I mean, even if you can get to turn 9, how do you get another credit to get this Bismarck out without, having the 1-3 FW earlier?
And that card obviously has been shown a lot, and certainly has come up with some extra dollars for its owners that have come in handy. You can see how much of a difference it might have made if Psy was able to find just 1 or 2 capitulation. That's a big throw. More ramp. Oh, big mouse. So losing a
Yeah.
lot of gas here for Taboo, but yeah, side knows. I don't
Yeah,
have
and
another 25 burned.
Sai does not run any guards in the deck. Some of these burn players will run Kurame in this deck, but and everyone would love to run Kurame, I think, but you have so few Japan slots and so many Japanese cards that you have to make some difficult cuts, and often Kurame is one of the ones to go.
Yeah, so now Sai, sort of on the back foot here, pressed up against the wall here for his tournament life. He is going to trust the burn deck. And by trust the burn deck, I mean he already had 2 wins, so it was his only choice. We are in a true final here. Both players tied at 2.
And Sai stuck with a similar looking hand where, you can play these Yukari 7/5s, but, you're going down a card to have your opponent go down a card. It's not really getting you anywhere when you're not using the Navy type on these cards to get extra draw or extra burn.
Yeah, so far he was able to hit a commando and a convoy though, so those aren't nothing. I agree with everything you said, but those might be some choice hits if you were able to choose.
Yeah, although perhaps the most important card uh, that you could have hit, being the War Bonds, does get to come out for Taboo, and another War Bonds. And Sai is just not dealing nearly enough damage to put on the pressure against these commandos. A commando rate hit is best case scenario.
It's an interesting matchup as well, right? Obviously, the commando deck is you wouldn't call it burn. You might not even call it similar to burn, but it's far less directed. But with the ramp and all of the resources and all of the convoys, all of the draw, he, I think, has a pretty stark advantage. Doesn't need to aim any of it. Can just do exactly what you're seeing. Throwing out pings ad nauseum.
Yeah, perhaps it's more fair to call Commando's combo. Uh,
And this is it's already over. This
yeah,
is
that's the combo.
Commandos winning on turn 5. That is gross. That is an awful thing that we just saw. I hated that. I did not like that. I'm still reeling. I don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, Psy surely checking their deck list saying, I run Shabatas in here, if I get one or two of those early on, that can change things completely, but that is not how it plays out. He opts for the 4 Gifu, which is really a lot better into certain matchups, a lot worse into commandos, and this time around, he pays the price for that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. The Gifu deck feels like it was sort of a call out for something that he maybe never saw. So didn't quite get there. Obviously, Burn pretty popular right now, so it's not, not a crazy choice by any means, but either way, not what is going to get him to the finals today. Let's go ahead and transition to our bracket real quick. Let's take a look at where we're at, and I will hand it off to the beautiful Bubbles and J King.
Alrighty, so we can see Taboo moving on into the finals 3-2 over Psy. And I think I can confidently say that that is the earliest we have ever seen a 20 damage, 1-turn kill from hand in a tournament before. I think that was turn 5, turn 6 maybe. That was crazy.
Yeah, it sort of goes back to the Kyusha OTK days of just how much damage can be pumped out at such an early stage of the game.
Yeah, but we are moving on to SYS versus Radish, our second semifinal. Can the new up-and-comer SYS take on the legend that is Radish, or possibly just get a single game off of him? And our first player we'll be looking at is SYS, 1,007 matches, 64% win rate, 4-1 in the Swiss. Pretty impressive stats. Let's quickly run through his decks. We've seen all of these yesterday, but we'll go through them once again just to refresh you. So first up, Japan Soviet aggro. I believe all 4 of our finalists or semi-finalists here have this deck. Very, very aggressive deck utilizing Soviet ally for some big tempo plays off Kolm and Rush. His second deck is the Germany-Japan burn deck, somewhat similar to the deck that we saw from Psy in the previous matchup, the deck that couldn't get across the line. However, both of the only 2 burn players to bring burn to this tournament, the German-Japan burn that is, made it to the semifinals, so that does say something about the deck. The third deck here is the Soviet main version of the Soviet-Japan aggro deck, or the Japan-Soviet aggro deck. So in this case, you have Soviet main, Japan ally. You're doing fairly similar things as the Japan main version, where you're using Rush and Kolm to try to take out your opponent early. This one has a bit more of a... It's a bit slower and has a bit more of a counter-offensive theme to it, as you are sort of forced to go into slightly more mid-range units with the Soviet package. And then last but not least, we of course have the much maligned British USA Commandos deck, the deck that we just saw win on turn 5, I believe, from full health. So yeah, that's the decks from SYS. Some heavy hitting decks in this lineup for sure.
And then playing up against SYS is going to be Radish with a 71% win rate, a strong Swiss record of 4-1, most played being Soviets, and then 52k, a bit of an old classic. It used to be teched against things like Justora and Bridair, but let's take a look at their decks. Now we see the first deck is the very popular German USA ramp deck. You've got things like 1-2-3s in here, which are really quite versatile. You can use them as a draw engine, you can use them as an OTK tool, you can use them just as a value tool. So really quite an interesting card to see ran in this deck. JUS ramp was something which was tried and tested for a long time, but it does seem like it's now possibly the strongest it's ever been. Really putting up the numbers today. And then we have the Japan Soviet aggro deck. Germany was the classic ally, but now Soviet has taken over with their quick one drops, their strong removal, and then they also just they fit into this shower trying to beat down your opponent as quickly as possible quite well. You used to have to worry about taking back the front line and pushing out damage from the support line against things like frontline. But now the sort of aggro decks, there aren't as many of them going around, so you can be a little bit slower with pushing out infantry and then just getting the most efficient ones possible. And then we have the USA Soviet. It's a little bit of a ramp mid-range deck. It's an odd list, but it's gotten them this far, so I'm excited to see if it continues to perform. But it's certainly one of the more abstract lists here today. And then we have the Soviet Japan aggro deck. It's the sort of flip side of this Japan Soviet aggro deck. Often people have been leaning a little bit more into the counter-offensive package, less worried about getting these amazing one-drops into the front line on turn one. You still have a good number of them, but you are slightly more of a burst and mid-range deck compared to the Jaguar list. Now we see the bans. Japan banned from both players. Does this surprise you at all, Jaking?
Not surprise me at all, because this is exactly what we saw from the first semifinal. Both players getting their Japan decks banned. We saw in the quarterfinals, Japan was the most banned deck, but you did see some variation depending on the matchups, depending on how comfortable each player felt. But I think it's not that surprising to see the 4 players making it to the semifinals, making it past the first round. I've clearly identified Japan as the best deck. They all have it, and they're all banning it.
I mean, it moves so quickly, and it's got such good removal with these rushes. And we've also seen it have a decent amount of longevity with things like a Kagi in here. You can refill really quite quickly. But with the decks left over, simply based on lineup, who are you favoring here?
I would have to give it on decks to SYS. I think Commandos, the key difference here is the Commandos for SYS versus Radish's USA deck. The USA deck it's a bit more of a homebrew. It's not tried and tested. And the German decks, they do have different German decks. SYS has the German US, I believe, or is SYS? No, SYS has the Burn, and Radish has the German USA 1-2-3 deck. I think both of those are very close. They obviously play very differently, but I think they're both very solid decks. But I think it is going to come down to this US deck from Radish. However, that's based on decks. Radish has proven that he can't lose a game on stream.
And getting straight into it, we see the Soviet aggressive deck mirror. Now, going first can be very important if you're able to find these one drops. However, with cards like Rush available, it is possible to efficiently sort of turn the tide. See a Type 94 come out, but there is a Bloody Sickle waiting. And this is quite a slow hand here from Radish.
Yeah, this is rough. If he can survive later into the game, these big units have high health totals, but we already see 2 rush in the hand of SYS, so even once these units start to come out, those rushes are going to take them out very quickly. 3 rush now, and sometimes you draw 3 rush and you have nothing to play them on. He has a recon and 2 scouting parties and a 2nd Marines, all great rush targets here. So this is looking very, very bad for Radish. This might be his first loss.
Now, we do see some defensive tools available. We have the Kyoto. Comb is also quite good at trading. Going to hold back on the Kyoto for now. Now, SYS has a few options here. I'd be tempted just to chuck down this scouting party.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. The line for the scouting party, it sets you up for future rushes. You don't have a way of killing Colm. 2nd Marines to the front line. I mean, there's no expansions you're trying to block or anything like that, so this is just essentially sacrificing a 2-credit unit into a 1 health, 1 credit unit that's already gotten a trade.
Now, Kyoto comes out, takes away one of the 33rd recons, but we know there are more available here for SYS.
If you're Radish, you're looking at this board state and you're feeling pretty fine. Your hand, the cards are close to even, board is close to even. You have not taken too much damage. However, the scouting party rush from SYS looked good, but he chooses to go for the SU. What do you think about this play? Because to me, this looks
I think he's trying to
somewhat
set up
questionable.
the rush. He wasn't so much thinking about this core sign coming down and thinking, if I go for this rush next turn, I can clear the Kyoto and then I can put a huge amount of damage into the HQ. Now, I'm going to have to figure out the best way to clear this board. Could just honestly go for 3 rushes here. You can rush your SU once. Gonna go for the trade.
I think his big options were to go for the trade and rush the recon for draw, and picks up the 4th rush, so it looks like he might just clear out the entire board and put all his stocks in this SU surviving. Obviously, he does have a
Oh,
lot
but
to recon,
Comb
but
is a
all
lovely draw.
and you can push the 220th. You've seen 3 rush from your opponent. You're thinking this surely has to survive. There's the 4th rush, but this unit
Even
has
Winter
ambush.
Warfare, because this has
Oh,
ambush. The rush wouldn't have killed it. You'd have had to find a way of double trading. But now you can go 33rd recons, go for the Winter Warfare and the rush, clear this big unit from the front line, and give yourself just way more cards to work with.
and the 2nd SU is a very big pickup here. Not for immediately this turn, but now we see the Corson, the KV, the big units in Radish's hand are now in SYS's hand on top of board control.
KV is slightly intimidating, however, I doubt it would better take you all the way. It does sort of shut down cards like a Kagi quite well, but SYS has a reasonable amount of choice and is not forced to go for these draw options at the moment.
Yeah, Radish choosing to go for the Cossacks and pushing up this 1/5 2-drop here. Most likely playing around counteroffensive. KV be a great turn to play KV. Issue is, if you play KV in that situation and then your opponent just simply counteroffensive the Colm in the front line, things aren't looking too hot.
Now, has a choice with this sickle. Do they want to sickle their own unit, maybe? No, going to go for the sickle on the enemy unit.
They both take 2 damage from the KVs. You take some additional damage on top of that. Scouting party is not really what you want to see once this KV's on the board, but SYS does not have an enabler for the SU. He doesn't have any sickles. He can trade out a Type 94 to get out of this Cossacks easily.
I'd be curious as well about what point do you consider just using the SU to get rid of this 3-4? This 3-4 feels like it has to die. You can hit it with your KV and finish it off with the comb as well. It just depends what you're prioritizing, because that does open up your KV to be a little bit more vulnerable.
Yeah, looks like he has found the line that he is happy with.
That
A bit of
ordering
an
was
order in this mistake.
questionable.
We'll see if that ends up mattering. Does not matter for the rush. And if you're Radish, you can push up, trade out the Shibata, then go scouting party, rush, and just pray you win that 50-50. Seize the 2nd SU.
Where's it gonna go? It's gonna
Oh,
take out the
that's
KV and
huge.
enables the future Winter Warfare.
Yeah, you don't need to play it right away.
SYS can now get rid of this KV, so we've sort of set ourselves back. Both players do have refill available.
And both players slowly getting lower and lower on health.
Ooh. Counteroffensive.
And that's
He's
going to
gonna.
enable Winter Warfare to get a 2nd draw while keeping both units alive.
Oh god, everyone's getting so low. There's a Yak here. There's more cards are available for Radish, but these HQs are just. They're both reaching the point where the smallest amount of damage should close out this game. Kyoto is an excellent find. You can take away this 5-2 in the front line and then go for the Akagi. And if we find a counteroffensive, that could potentially be game over.
2nd Akagi, probably not going to go for the 2nd Akagi this turn.
There's the Tomahawk. There's the counteroffensive, just a little bit too late. You needed that cost reduction on the counteroffensive to be able to pull it off. Just going to prioritize face damage.
Pushing up Corson and playing counteroffensive on it and just getting a big unit. But I suppose you are worried about the follow-up Kyoto. And this rush
I mean,
has to hit the Corson, it looks like.
you also had the potential, if you were able to hit this guard and find a Winter Warfare off the rush.
Oh, you have to sickle first, though.
Oh
You're
no.
dead on board.
They can still sickle 33rd Recon, sickle that, look for another rush.
Yeah, but if he found the rush, he would have wanted to play it on the 2 health unit he was trading anyways, with higher options. And we see Radish make a bit of a misstep and takes his first loss on stream. Now the question is he just going to bounce back from this 3-0 SYS? Because, you know, he's Radish, he's the GOAT. Or is this the sort of the curse being broken, and can Radish now only lose games on stream?
The beginning of the end. We did see, though, quite a slow start here for Radish. We expected it to be a difficult match because of that. We now see the Soviet deck coming back out, going to do a full mulligan, finds a very powerful hand. Then we also see SYS on this Germany deck. We'll get that hand updated in just a moment here from SYS.
And we can't see the hand of SYS, but this is going to come down to if he finds some of these routed troops. Radish does not have the rush he would have loved to see.
That's
Chooses
a
to not trade out
powerful
the
hand
FW,
here.
and that's 2 more FWs and a Makura. Crossfire picked up is going to be useful down the line. Suppression is also going to be very useful.
Now, you can pin the Type 94, but you also have the option of actually pinning the comb, playing a production, and trading into the Type 94. I think now that you've found this crossfire, you feel like you're under less pressure to do so because you're confident that you can clear the board later on.
There's no crossfire setup this turn.
I'm wondering if we double production, and it's not the route we've gone for, but I was wondering about double production into just getting this super early hipper out, and then playing the production you get off that hipper to take out the
That's
Type
what he's going
94.
for. It looks like. Or,
Oh,
nope, he's just going to buzz bomb. HQ, draw a card. Production out to Shibata. And this is turn 3. This is the nonsense of having all 3 FWs. Even 2 FWs is a lot, but all 3.
oh,
Radish to take
just
Liberty,
gonna
though.
get rid of this hand, though, from both players. SYS's hand is going to be shuffled back into their deck. And these productions are now very bad draws. They're great when you get them for free like this, but
Ooh, and no Navy cards. Suddenly these FWs just turn into gladiators.
however, they are enabling the suppression. And we're going to see the crossfire come out, clear the front line, and put that Kyoto down to 1 health. 220th is going to be traditionally quite a difficult unit to deal with here, but with this suppression available, it does become slightly easier.
Goes for the draw first. And
Although
Radish...
it is still a significant threat when it's in the front line. Finding U16 is actually a really nice find, because otherwise you risk the potential Winter Warfare counteroffensive and just getting one shot.
And he gets 3 production, which means he can take the front line and get out 2nd Marine. That's exactly what he
Push
goes
up
for.
one with 3 health, maybe worried about the Kyoto getting the free trade. Sickle will enable that. However, considering just taking out the one in the support line. Although, with the amount of cards available for SYS and the point we're reaching in the game, these FWs, the production is less important now. Because realistically, SYS is going to better use most of their hand every turn anyway. Getting rid of one more of these, I don't feel is quite so important.
I like this play from Radish here, going for the SU. Normally you see players hold on to these SUs and go for these big finishing blows from hand. And that is typically how you want to play it, because most decks are going to be able to remove a 2 health SU in the support line. German, Japan, Navy Burn, not one of those decks that can easily do so, and we see in the hand.
Especially now we've seen the crossfire come out, I like it a lot more. If we hadn't seen the crossfire, I'd be worried about this Kyoto being on 1 HP, making it a really easy way of just clearing both of these. But we've seen a crossfire already, so you don't have to be as worried about it. And now Radish most likely going to be taking out these Navy boys, as they are quite a powerful threat. They threaten your HQ, but then also with this shock, they threaten fairly powerful trades. And now SYS is able to get Radish low enough to the point where a future Bismarck can potentially close out the game.
And this is something that normally against a lot of burn decks, these types of decks, you can't really sit around and do nothing and just trade them out because they'll eventually kill you. That is not as much the case with the German-Japan Navy burn. It requires a lot of units on board to get in most of their damage, and it also requires there to be a hand to refill with something like Enigma. So if your hand is empty and you've cleared off all the second Marines, there's Bismarck, and that's basically it. So you're just saying, okay, you
Makura
have
is a
one
good
card.
find. Makura is a really good find because that's going to thin the deck from SYS and also buy them a huge amount of time to find a way of ending this game. With orders coming up, there's nothing Radish can do. Just has to pass back the turn. Doesn't want to get their HQ any lower. Buzz Bomb means Turpitz is now also lethal.
There's 2 draws for lethal.
Finds a Marine.
Second Marine, which means Radish is on a clock here.
Oh,
Can't play any
they
card
can't
in this
play
game.
any orders.
And a premature surrender, but I think an understandable one.
SYS not holding back their punches at all and is left with the feared commando deck, so just has to win a single game on this commando deck. And we've seen how powerful the starts can be for this commando deck. The players not wasting any time, getting straight into it.
I would have actually liked to see Radish play out that game because I'm just thinking in his deck, best case scenario, but you can draw Corson into guard to stop you from dying to the units on board.
There's the Navy boy on board as well as Makura's available for us.
In hand. That was the last Makura that was played.
I don't think, is that right? That doesn't feel right.
Yeah, there was. I mean, maybe it was a spectator bug, but there was no Makuras in the hand of SYS.
No, you're right. I guess because Radish had shuffled away, the Makuras had been used earlier, and Radish had shuffled them away, right, with the Take Liberty. So maybe Radish had not remembered that they had been shuffled away and just assumed there were more on the way. Because usually when your opponent top decks a Makura and starts playing them out, you can expect 4 of them, but slightly...
Yeah, I don't know if he thought there was a Makura in hand and just didn't check, or if that was a case of just saying, well, the odds my opponent doesn't find a burn card, and also I find Corson into KV to close out the game fast enough. And yeah, it's a very unlikely path to victory.
No, but you should take every single odd.
And we have counteroffensive, no winter warfares, so we have yet to see a big counteroffensive. So far in this tournament.
I like this. I really like this getting this guy into the front line. It means post carpet bomb or post wave after wave, you're left with a unit, and if your opponent doesn't suppress it, then you're left with a fairly aggressive unit. With the carpet bomb
likely wanting to have suppressed the Shibata here.
Yeah.
But I suppose, yeah, you can carpet bomb instead of going for wave after wave, duress wave after wave. You can carpet bomb and then duress it afterwards. You still only take the 1 damage.
Although it is still a unit which can have counteroffensive played on it. This is one of the scary things of a counteroffensive deck, is every unit is a threat because they can suddenly be buffed up to have sort of 8 or 10 bonus attack and just destroy you out of nowhere.
And this 5 health, I'm totally blanked on the name of the unit, but this 5 health guy, if you start going for commanders and your commandos can't kill it, it gets very scary very fast because it gets +2 attack every time it takes damage. So if you're pinging it 4 times but it sticks around on the board, that's staring down the barrel of 9 damage with counteroffensive in hand. That would just be lethal.
It's always entertaining when you play Crossfire against that unit, because before it dies, it's with the 676, and before it dies, when you play Crossfire, it ends up having like 9 attack or something. Now we see the commando come out.
That was
However,
a big 50-50 there for SYS. It hits the recon, it draws Radish a card. If it hits the 676th, it's 2 more damage you're taking.
with 3 of these now on board, only 2 of them are active, of course, but it does mean that any damage is any ping damage is potentially coming back to kill you later.
Yeah, and we're likely going to see. Oh, really? I was expecting to see just straight up number 10 commando duress wave after wave.
I mean, you can't duress now. Slightly. Oh no, the commando has
Oh, is this
been thrown
there's
out.
guard? But there's Kyoto for the guard. Is this just going to be lethal?
It's got to be, right? Winter Warfare, with this many units on board, there's going to be 4 surviving. That's going to be
I think
8
there's only
bonus
13,
damage.
14 with Winter Warfare.
Yeah, also doesn't have the credits to quite attack with everything.
And this means duress wave after wave, and you're alive. There's only a 1-1 in the front line.
Hear me out. Should the Winter of Warfare been played before the Kyoto, so the Kyoto survives the carpet bomb?
I mean, if Carpet Bomb comes out, you're kind of still expecting to survive.
But it's
So
the
I think
same
having your
amount of
opponent
damage, right?
That's a
Kyoto
good point.
removes a unit from the
That is an
board.
excellent point, because the guard would still be damaged.
Now, wave after wave came out, so did not make any significant difference, but it potentially could have been a way of giving back the guard for pretty much nothing.
And if you're Radish, you just got intel on the second carpet bombing. You've seen carpet bombing end wave after wave. Your opponent's about halfway through your deck.
Yeah, but you got 33rd recons. You're going to get some draw off it at least.
Likely see the trade and then carpet bombing to clear up this entire board. Goes for the plan first, draw first. Excellent choice.
You also, you got to be playing
SU.
around.
3 draws for SU.
You got to be playing around this guard as well, because there are blitz tanks available for Radish. You want to make sure your guard has the ability to trade back against them. Unable to find an SU-100, but I really want to see potentially holding on to a way of clearing a guard as well as hitting face with the SU-100. So this rush could be really important. If you're able to get rid of Blackwatch and hit face with a blitz tank, it could be one of the few ways to actually do the damage to SYS here. Oh, Kyoto, that's it.
That's just game. And Radish gets his win on the Soviet Japan deck, 3rd time's the charm. And yeah, I wonder if SYS was better served going for the commander raid at the start of that turn instead of the Blackwatch.
I also wonder, it felt like SYS at times in that match was throwing out commandos with no real intent and just because there wasn't anything else to do. And every time it felt like these commandos were just dying without any effectiveness. We saw a commando come out that just died to a Winter Warfare. We saw a commando come out, play for a 50-50, and then die to a bloody sickle. It very much felt at times like SYS was playing without much choice on what they were doing. They were just throwing things out because there wasn't anything else to do.
Yeah, and we saw that from SYS in yesterday's match, where the way he plays commandos is very deliberate in its setup. He's almost playing it as an OTK deck, where he will try to hold on to these commandos until it's essentially killing the opponent. And sometimes that works out, sometimes that does not work out at all.
Now we see a good start here from Radish getting these war machines. He's going to be able to skip a lot of the early game, and with 1-2-3s, Hellcat, and SU-100 in hand, they're able to do a huge amount of damage from hand.
Oh, and the counteroffensive picked up. as well. This is potentially a lot of damage from Radish if he gets the credits to play it all. And we were criticizing SYS for not playing his commandos earlier. Here is just a straight-up commando coming down on turn 4. And it seems that it's not just a, oh, I'm just going to play conservatively with commandos every time. It's a, your deck is full of sickles and rushes, I'm not going to throw down my commandos. But now you're playing a deck that is much more unit-based and has far fewer ways of taking out my commando. Now we'll play it down early.
Now, I'd be tempted to just going to go for the ramp. I was tempted by the possibility of putting down these mechanized infantry and then going for this M10, getting yourself some draw, and also the ability to put these mechanized into the front line. Michigan, with the 1-2-3s, is able to start performing some combos here, and is then going to be able to turn it into something else later, but possibly...
Goes for the draw instead. And it's going to push up, most likely, the 1-2-3 to set up a Michigan Hellcat second Michigan pickup. If this... Oh, I suppose I can't push it to the front line. If this 1-2-3 survives...
Look at this wave after wave, though, just sitting here, waiting.
But if SYS goes for a riskier play like Rangers, Commando Raid, Duress...
Oh, you can't greed out. Like, oh, maybe with the second Duress you can greed out. They've all got 2 HP. No, gonna go for the wave after wave. Gonna enable the bonus damage, even though it would kill everything anyway.
Front line. That actually does work out reasonably well here.
It's suppressed. You gotta do something with him. You can't just keep him back forever.
Michigan. Second Michigan can print some more credits here.
Well, you don't have the credits, no? If you play the other second Michigan.
1 credit off.
But look at this. He's going to get so much card draw from these 1-2-3s. This is such a good combo. It flips Veteran, draws you 2, and then it turns into the Hellcat, transforming into 4 damage. These 1-2-3s, a mechanized combo from Radish, just giving him infinite resources here.
Yeah, Radish looked at the 1-2-3 Bergman combo and said, "Hold my beer." And Rangers, this is a great board to clear up Rangers, but just look at the damage in Radish's hand. 2 SU-100 picked up now. Still has the counteroffensive. Has the third 1-2-3 with the second Michigan.
And the strategic bombing is going to be so powerful.
All these commandos, if he is feeling like it. But oh, the number 3 commando picked up from SYS doesn't have the credits to play it this turn. But if this can get on the board after a strategic bombing,
that could, especially with an M10 gun as well, it could be a real roadblock for Radish. Now, it has to make a decision. Do I go for this strategic bombing, or am I able to do some really fancy footwork with these 1-2-3s Michigans? Because there is... But there's potentially... I don't think we quite have the credits, but there's close to lethal here, right? You've got 1-2-3s Michigan and loads of blitz tanks.
If the sickle was a winter warfare, this would be lethal.
And if we had more Michigan 1-2-3 credit sheet, I think there's also the potential for a lethal, right? You do a 1-2-3s with all these blitz tanks. He's got these Michigans in the front line. Draw middle, the best kind of draw.
Oh, but the number 3 commando is gonna come out here, and there's no answer in the hand of Radish.
Radish is going to need to find some more removal for another form of suppression.
He's lost 2 M10s, and those are the only 2 M10s in the deck.
So we're looking for removal now.
There's no rush in this deck. It's only 2 bloody sickles. Is there a way? There's 2 supply priorities and pathfinders and 2 Calliopes.
You can also turn this 1-2-3s into something smaller. It doesn't have to stay as this big boy. If you can find, if we've got another mechanized left in the deck, that would be something we can use.
But then it can't blitz, because you can't blitz with the 1-2-3
that is right.
Because anytime you veteran it, it will turn into whatever you played to veteran it.
What was our last unit that died?
Ooh,
It's
gonna find
another
out.
Michigan.
Okay.
Well, we've got money. Money isn't their thing, but
But this Ranger also sticks around, and Commandos is gonna come out. Or the Commando Raid number 2 is gonna come out, and this is getting scary. And we're also getting to the point where if Radish can get rid of this number 3 Commando in, say, 2 turns, by the end of that 2 turns, he might have just lost his entire board, and suddenly his hand's looking a lot worse than it used to.
there is now a serious clock down on the board with these commandos. Calliope, it can take out the commandos. Now you have a choice. Do I
Yeah.
target the middle one and try and potentially take out this number 3? No, I'm just going to take out both of the active threats on board.
But the second carpet bombing in the hand of SYS, we saw him. This is his 3rd board clear, and he had all 3
Look,
board clears
if
last
this
time.
commandos goes to the front line, this enables the removal of this commandos.
That is true. If it goes to the front line,
SYS needs to keep it in the support line.
and
Considering the
surely
counteroffensive.
surely he does keep it in the support line, because you've seen the strategic bombing, which is the only reason to not have it in the support line.
I mean, the only reason to push it into the front line is thinking that you're going to try and convert it into damage, 3 damage a turn. But I think that would be a significant mistake. Now I expect second carpet bomb should come out.
Yeah, second chance first, just to pick some cards up. No reason not to. Picks up the 3rd Commander Raid. If you're SYS, this game could not be going better from this point.
And now Radish gonna be really looking for a Pathfinders. Pathfinders would be lethal.
Yeah, Pathfinders or bust. There's also, he could sickle into supply priorities, or he could Calliope. And
Gets rid of it.
SYS just says, you know what? I don't want to die to Pathfinders. We're just going to trade here. What do you have left? I've
But
killed most
now-
of your stuff.
SU-100 can come out, get the value trade. Another one comes out, 4 damage to face. It is all down to these 1 damage commando
Now,
pings.
here is the question. Do you ping the 4-3 to maximize commando pings into damage? Or into the units? I think you have to. Or you don't have to, but it is, I think, the better play here. Chooses to just take out the 8-1.
Yeah. And for those not quite understanding the point there, if you kill the one with 1 HP first, it means you have a 50-50 chance on each commando ping. If you don't kill it, then you've got a 66% chance of hitting a unit. But look at this damage coming out. Another protected convoy.
And is this just going to be lethal?
It is.
That is just straight the end of the game.
Oh my god. SYS is going to commando Radish out of this one. We thought SYS was close to death. Radish just gets eliminated from nowhere.
Yeah, that's SYS going on to the finals, and that is Radish's streak ended. That was crazy. We've seen 2. That's both the sets ending with a crazy out-of-nowhere commando kill. And now both of those players are going to meet in the finals, Taboo versus SYS.
Yeah, a commando mirror has got to be coming our way, and depending on who you ask, those are either very interesting or very infuriating. It's all a matter of opinion, really.
I mean, we're not the ones playing in it, and I think everyone can agree it's entertaining to watch.
I certainly find it entertaining to watch, and I don't have to worry about the mirror because I've got other decks, in my collection. If you don't play commandos, you never get the commando mirror. That's the bubble strategy right there.
All right, let's pull up the bracket once more. Take a look at our final 2 matchups with Taboo SYS in the grand finals, and of course, Psy versus Radish in the bronze match, which is the next match that we will be looking at, brought to you none other by than Birdo Burrito and Thanatron.
All right. Thank you for that wonderful intro. What a match. We just saw Radish's plot armor all run out at once, which was pretty gnarly. And now, Birdo, we have our 3rd place match between Psy and between Radish, which is maybe not who we thought would be in the 3rd place match when we first started today, but certainly what we've got. What do you expect to see?
I expect to see a return to form from Radish. I expect another 3-0. Big money, no
All right.
whammies.
Right back to the plot armor and not being able to lose. Just a fluke set. Radish coming right back to haunt everyone's dreams. We will see. Let's go ahead and take a look at what our players are working with real fast.
All right, first up we have Sai. You've seen these Soviet Japans. You know what they can do. You know the damage they offer and how fast they offer it. We have this German Japan burn list, um, very potent at times. We saw the difference between the high rolls and the low rolls with some really slow starts to this deck earlier on, dying on size turn 5 to commandos, but also printing tons of productions with the FWs in another game. Um, and finally, we have everyone's favorite, the Brit US um, Commandos, which, we have seen how potent this deck can be. It does have some weaknesses, particularly to those recons, the 33rd recons, which are oh so popular. But it just presents so much damage so fast and all from hand, which has been a real problem today for some players to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. The matchups have certainly been interesting in the interplay between sort of some of the archetypes that we have so far. Looking at Radish's deck real quick, we have German USA. We have the 1-2-3s for all of that kind of shenanigan-based gameplay that we've seen so much today. We've mentioned a couple times that he does have a Stuka. We have not seen that come into play with the 1-2-3s, but can be a very powerful discard combination. We then see Japan, Soviet, and skipping one quick, we also see Soviet Japan. I'm going to go over those two quickly as together as they are basically the inverse of each other. Both very aggressive, both using those rushes to great effect as removal tools. And again, we do see a single Aichi in the Japanese version, as we kind of mentioned yesterday. And we see the Tomahawk in, again, Tomahawk actually had a big moment in some of our games earlier today, providing a 4th health to quite a few units to make sure that they could survive a carpet bombing. So Tomahawk has been on the board, I think, 3 or 4 times throughout this tournament and has definitely made an impact. So really cool to see. And then lastly, we have a USA Soviet deck. We've seen counteroffensive really do a lot of work and threaten a lot of people. And that will certainly be the case for Radish if he has anything to say about it.
Yeah, counteroffensive in this deck is just so scary because, it adds to every turn, like, a whole nother dimension you have to play around. It stops being like, oh, I've brought my opponent down to like 2 damage on board, because that 2 damage can quickly turn into 8 with a scouting party, a Winter Warfare, and a counteroffensive. These sorts of lines open up, and sometimes the power of counteroffensive isn't drawing it, but simply having your opponent need to play around it.
Yeah, it like raises the stakes of everything. It makes like the fuse on the match so much shorter, and how fast it can just sort of destruct, or how fast it can sort of fall apart. Do you think we see anything here ban wise that's not just banning Japan Soviet both times?
I feel like these players have made a decision. It seems like there's a consensus among the players today that Japan Soviet is the deck to ban. Um, and, if you're not going to tech for the deck, which it seems like these players, haven't exactly done, then, you're just going to, ban, one of the strongest decks in the game.
Yeah, certainly. And it's sort of like a weird tournament as well, right? We've seen some tiny inklings of control from a couple players, and it certainly didn't do that well. We have some very aggressive decks that are pulling the ceiling down on any kind of big, heavy, greedy control type packages. And then also the way that these combo type commando decks are working as well, able to sort of put out a ton of damage out of nowhere, possibly win on turn 5, but just as easily could win on turn 12, right? Like there's just a lot of options for that kind of commando deck, a lot of different ways where it can win, where it can be played really effectively.
Yeah, and we're seeing sorts of win conditions in cards that are in these decks that are a little slower than the Japan Soviet and the Soviet Japan, that are a lot more powerful than we're used to. And I feel like that's really presenting a lot of issues for control right now. Because, when you have, uh, something like Commandos able to deal so much damage from hand, or you have 1-2-3s with Michigans into something like Comet to deal tons of damage, gain tons of credits. When you're just trying to control the board in the style that, we've become so accustomed to, it kind of falls apart sometimes recently.
Yeah, it will definitely be interesting to sort of see the long-standing effects on sort of the ecosystem between all of the decks, and how that sort of manifests over time until our next expansion tournament, or even up until the World Championship, which is sort of fast approaching. But again, both players banning Japan, exactly what we thought we'd see.
Yeah, and I wonder if players were able to watch, like, see this tournament from the future and go back and decide again. I wonder if we'd see, everybody still banning Japan, or if they'd say, "Oh, there's so much Japan Soviet and Soviet Japan. Maybe I try to counter that deck and ban like commandos rather than trying to tech for commandos." And I wonder what that sort of deck would even look like.
Yeah, right. With a lot of anti-aggro tools and the way that everything else is, certainly doesn't feel like you could. It would almost have to be a strictly anti-aggro deck, which would definitely feel very weak into some other matchups. So it would certainly be this sort of weird rock paper scissors. Easy to maybe get yourself a great matchup, but easy to get yourself an equally terrible matchup.
Yeah, and it's a little easier to be a bit more non-committal, um, teching against something like commandos, because if you bring 4 Shibatas and you're in a matchup where Shibata isn't very good, you're not going to cry about it. It's not the end of the world. You'll be okay at the end of the day, most of the time. But if you're bringing 4 routes and your opponent doesn't run any 2-drops, then you're in a much more of a predicament.
So Sai starting with his Japanese ally burn. We've seen this a couple times so far through the tournament. He was able to get a win with it in his first set and move on from the quarterfinals, but it felt like the deck that kept him from really being able to establish himself in his semifinal match through some testing that we were able to do before the tournament. It certainly felt like the Makuras, as I believe you alluded to yesterday, were a really good tech or a really good call out for something that didn't quite materialize in his opponent's lineups. So it'll be, him starting with this deck here, really trying to get a win on this deck so he can move on to some of his superior stuff. Interesting strategy from Sai so far.
Now, you have a couple of options here for Sai. You can say, you've already played one rush, I don't think you have another. Which, it seems like they almost always do have another, but sometimes they won't. And play down a second Marines, that's what he opts to do. The other option would be to do something like an errado and a suppression, and see if you can find something relevant.
Yeah, and interesting here to okay, so we're gonna go right for the counter offensive. As holding counter offensive in hand, it was sort of interesting to see if maybe Radish would get a little crazy, go for face, but that's kind of the why that second Marines is so good, right? Like if you want to just be like, all right, well, you're gonna play burn cards. I've got the board. If you want to make this a face race, perhaps I can win the face race from the board. I can be faster than the burn. But then you can't, because with the shock on that 3/6, they're able to make just some really, really favorable trades and then just continue to burn you after you've lost the board. So that unit probably here to stay unless it receives some changes.
Now, to be honest, I'm a little surprised Sai went for the second Marines rather than a Gifu. You did see your opponent definitely didn't have rush. They would have used it last turn. And I feel like having the Gifu down to make sure that you're not going to brick any draws against this deck in particular, I would think that's a little more relevant than just the potential that you might end out the game a bit quicker, because Radish, he needs a fair amount of credits, a fair amount of cards, and a little bit of space in the front line to make a counteroffensive turn work. And I feel like Sai was looking at the ability to limit those things, limit those capabilities. But both lines are very close, to be sure.
I sort of getting close to being able to round this up, getting close to turn 10, holding Bismarck. Only 11 health for Radish. Obviously needs to get him down to 8. A Buzz Bomb will help if Naval continues to go unanswered. I mean, holding a couple of Navy cards, right? We, I believe, has he thrown a Navy card out this turn? Do we still have 3 burn to look forward to this turn? I believe we do.
Yeah, we have not played a Navy card out just yet.
Yep, and that is going to get us into exact Bismarck range.
And we're really seeing the power level of Gifu this game. In an earlier game, we talked about the Gifu sort of failing Sai a little bit, but I'm glad we get a game where we can see how much it can do, how much it can control this front line, and really take away a game.
It's able to renew the shock constantly through playing naval cards. Basically makes it a trading machine if you can pull it off. Certainly loading 4 of them into your deck is placing a lot of value in that. And now both of them with shock again. We're able to move these bad boys up. But again, all of that is a distraction, right? If we're Sai, we're really, 2 turns away from shooting the big gun, and Radish says, I don't need to see any of that. We can GG go next.
He doesn't
So
like the big gun.
Yeah, Sai with his commandos left, which has done pretty well for him. And then, of course, the Soviet Japan that both players have. I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see a Soviet Japan mirror if both players were to or one hard stick it and one switch to it. Spectator is going to take just a second and load in, so we should have that other hand.
Now, we have not seen many players miss a war machine on turn 2, I must say.
Yeah, no, that's reserved for me. That only happens to me.
I think we saw one player miss a war machine on turn 2, but they had an what's it called? Is it America at War on 3? The 3-cost war machine that draws if you have 2 leftover credits. Is that the name?
Yes, yep. Some the two oldest elite planes for the Soviets really coming into play. We've seen Yak a couple times in several of these games just draw a ton of cards for players, and even adding to sort of the intrigue, that card draw coming at the cost of all those little health blips, which in a world of burn and commandos, every time you are taking that one little bit of health damage to draw yourself a card, the ramifications can certainly get pretty crazy as all the burn and ping damage is flying around. And of course, we mentioned how Tomahawk briefly came into effect as well. So really interesting to see, this expansion has definitely warped things. All these decks basically are really dependent on new tools, but as things change, they also stay the same, and we have some just really old Soviet elite planes that are here to stay, doing work.
And speaking of old elites, that revamped 101st Airborne, uh, actually, being really good here, but with Radish floating a credit, it didn't actually matter that it had been buffed to cost 4 when you think about it.
Yeah, if
Although he
anything,
certainly
that
wouldn't play it if it still costed 5.
you can. Yep, that's proof for the devs. You can move the cost back up. That's Hell on Wheels. We have not seen much at all this tournament. Little bit of synergy with the SU. The SU, of course, being a tank that can be targeted by Hell on Wheels. I don't think a Sherman really in Radish's deck. As we discovered, M6 for sure not a Sherman yesterday,
Yeah,
which everybody probably knew but me, but that's okay.
I've really liked how Radish has been playing this, where he just has a really huge amount of respect for Rush, and he has not really given any opportunities over to the opponent to take the game away with Rush, even though he had, a few lines where he could have opened himself up to that. And, even though Sai has not found any rushes, it shows a good amount of discipline from Radish to be able to, uh, lower your opponent's number of outs.
Sai really flush with recons, but Radish able to stick all that damage in 2 or more to sort of limit how effective these can be with the draw. Of course, now we do have a rush in hand, 2 rushes in hand with the 2 recons, so that's pretty good. 2 unit kills and 2 draws most likely. But a 2-1 feels bad. You do not want to kill that with a rush. That does not feel worth it. We'll take the 50-50. We got the bad end. We're going to have to burn both rushes to get rid of the 8-2.
But the rushes are drawing you cards at least. You have the recons along with them, so it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, Sai not feeling terrible, but it certainly feels like he's spending more resources to get rid of Radish's offense than the resources Radish is spending to generate said offense. And you do wonder if that is going to be sustainable. Finally, the counteroffensive. Sai would have loved that counteroffensive about 3 turns ago when he had an entire board of recons.
Now, Radish could have played an additional 1-2-3 that turn. That would have allowed you to have 3 Michigans on the board, which is really powerful. I'm
Just
not
infinite money.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how the turn would have played out, but if you're able to weave in a By the Sword there early-ish on to draw a lot of cards, that seems like it might have been, a more powerful play. Did he also take unnecessary damage on the Michigan? Because I don't think he attacked with the 1-2-3's version of Michigan. And so I think he took unnecessary damage there.
I'm not quite sure. Certainly the 1-2-3 turns are some of the hardest to navigate. The skill cap for that tech in those decks is extremely high. Sai, what was 1 credit short there of having lethal? 1 more credit would have allowed him to counter offensive for those last 3 damage, or were there no injured units? Either way, not really relevant, but really getting down to the wire here. If he's going to be able to find these last 3 units, Bradish able to refill his hand with the mechanized and kind of the same gimmick before. We're now able to attack with at least 1. Actually, we're just going to take the front line.
And that is simply game for Sai with the Type 93 and the BM. He quickly is up 2-0.
Yeah, finding KV as well, so we'll only really needed to find the 1 damage, but BM, as you said, with a buff wagon, a perfect 3 out of 3. And now, the reduced to not having his plot armor, all of his defenses seeming to fail him right in the end here. Radish now in danger of losing the 3rd place match. Once again, Spectate just taking a minute to catch up.
Radish is holding firm with the US Soviet. He will have to win with every deck against Commandos if he wants to take 3rd place. And that seems like a really hard ask.
Certainly when the opening of Sai's hand is War Machine, Commando, I don't know that bodes well. Into Baker Street. The way we've seen Commando's able to just completely destroy someone on turn 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think a lot could come down to this Baker Street. Ooh, that's a good first pickup.
Instant pick, 2nd Commando. Instant pick, 2nd Baker Street. Oh my.
Oh, that's an absolutely disgusting Baker Street. That's another good hit with the number 9 Commando. And that is not one of the top cards you're looking for, but you cannot be mad with that by any means. Now, the one thing that Radish's deck does clearly have going for him is that you can draw a lot of cards with these 1-2-3s and these mechanized. Or is it motorized? Wait, or am I just forgetting the name of the card? The 2-2 or 2-1.
I thought it was mechanized. Now you got me suspicious as well. But yeah, able to draw 4 cards for a very low credit cost as well, right? 4 cards used to cost you a Lend-Lease. Used to cost you a whole 7. But with some with some 1, 2, 3s and some finagling.
Yeah, and Lend-Lease was too powerful. They had to rotate it. But, you know, there are other sacrifices you're making play in this deck.
Hellcat top deck, not especially useful. Sai just kind of lying in wait for his pop-off turn.
One consequence of all this draw is we have seen Radish overdrawing on this deck sometimes, and with the War Bonds here, we will see that again at the start of the turn. I do think it's probably the right play for him, but, you know, it could have a bit of a cost. You know, if you don't reach the end of your deck, which you are unlikely to against commandos, I would say it's not the end of the world to mill a card. You know, you're always going to be sad when it's, you know, a particularly nice one you would have loved to have.
Yeah, you wonder sometimes if you can just close your eyes. Don't even show me. I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Ooh, and a counteroffensive. That's a lot of burst potential out for Radish.
Yeah, that definitely feels like one of the ones that you would have liked to keep around. Now, I do believe that this uh, pinned 5/5 here is actually a 1/2 breeze. So that opens up some options.
It is indeed. I can confirm that.
So just going for 2 M6s. This means that, you know, every shot to your HQ right now doesn't really mean anything. But, you know, that's putting a lot up to chance. I feel like Radish maybe could have gone for another 1/2 Grease and the second Michigan. Get Gree, Michigan's on the board. Each time you operate one, you spend Gree credits, you get 6, so you net Gree.
That's a ton
And then
of
that's
health
9.
stats.
And then you could even get, you know, another M6 down with that if you wanted.
All that
Maybe
commandos would have to
that's an
chase in.
overextension though. When you haven't seen wave after wave yet, maybe you could argue that's an overextension.
Is long range desert group rotated, or is it truly just fallen completely out of fashion? Commandos don't need it at all with so much damage potential.
It is rotated, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, and Sai keeps pinning the 1/2 Grease rather than the real M6. So I feel like surely you go for the Michigans here. And with, you know, buy the sword, you can draw a ton of cards. You're also printing credits off the M6 because it has free operation cost. Yeah, and Radish agrees. He goes for the line.
17 credits after all of these actions?
Yeah, and you still have... Oh! And you still have the attack from the M6. This is massive. And that's more damage, but does he have the time on the clock? He goes for the supply priorities, 4 seconds left. Sometimes Spectator isn't completely accurate. Maybe he can queue up the actions? No, he couldn't! He misses lethal!
This is lethal just due to
One more push
time.
up, one more attack. That is perhaps a bit of foobar.
Gonna need wave after wave. Has the suppress to enable it for the 4 damage. Not quite gonna clear the board. The 6-5 Michigan with 1 extra health. He could throw. No, the Rangers, of course, don't give him a ping. It just buffs ping damage, so that's actually not going to help him at all.
I'm not sure what you could even draw. There could have been something like a Monty, maybe, into something. But Radish, despite the missed lethal due to the turn timer, he will be able to close that one out, which is always a relief. If you lose because you ran out of time on a turn in a big tournament like this, that is a heavy weight.
Our players champing at the bit here, going right back into it. Now Radish having to take down commandos again, but this time from a German USA. And you wonder now. I wouldn't say shook, right? I don't think by any means that Sai is reeling, but he did have a very good start to the last game. He had early ramp, he had early Baker Street. He got some really, really nice pulls off of Baker Street as well.
It's just not possible to miss a war machine, is it? You know, I thought Radish, might have some trouble, but no, he just finds it off the top. Although he lacks really anything good to put it into just yet.
But Sai with another good start. Able to actually go up for America at War. He's able to double ramp on 5 with a card draw. That is a poor man's War Bonds. Executed very well. Oh, and now we have a little bit of 1-2-3 Stuka action. Have not seen this yet. Unfortunately, Commando's not really the deck for it to be effective against. A bunch of smokescreen Commandos are not what you want to be able to try to target with this Stuka to get some of these discards.
Yeah, maybe if you can turn something into a routed troop, your opponent might play it back out if they need hand size for any reason.
Yeah, it's been interesting so
there's
far.
ideas.
The way that the routed troops tend to work, especially against these players that are playing like a hard hand lock, is it almost becomes like resistance, right? You should be keeping the 1/1s maybe in your hand. You don't want to play them. Playing them is just risk for things like Sherwood, things like Fog of War, maybe even Queen's Own. Put those back on your deck and stifle your draw and get you bogged down and truly get you hand locked. We haven't seen that adjustment, I think, quite yet. But I do think that as handlocker, as some of these routed troops become more and more common, that there is going to be a bit of adaptation, and maybe some players will begin to not even play them. Just keeping them as stuff that junks up your hand. But if they're unable to create nearly as many, like resistance obviously was, then you can handle it. You can handle a little bit of junk in your hand.
Now, I do think it's often really good against commandos just to prep that flying bomb, especially with the Stuka in hand, so that you're able to kill a ground unit with an order, which does transform the Stuka to veteran to enable the discard. But, with mouse in hand, getting up to the point where you can threaten synthetic rubber makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Mouse will certainly clear the board, clear a commando board, or very close to it. We see a big Rangers come down. Would really love to have something to do with that Rangers, and that is going to be an amazing Panzergren. That is exactly what Radish wants to see. Now knows never having to worry about the Rangers, and your hand is clogged.
Yeah, that costs Psy in a huge way.
Yeah, his Ranger's certainly not required for the crazy amount of damage that commandos can put out, but it definitely helps. Ramp to 12 as well, but you know, not always a mistake or anything like that. Generally think that's probably fine here. Especially with, I believe, a war bond, so he's going to draw extra as well. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm looking at Radish's deck list right here. He has 2 copies of the 108 Panzer Grenadier. So that, you know, it calls into the question the play of that Rangers. Because, Rangers is such a powerful card in the matchup. And to lose it like that is really sad. If your opponent doesn't have one of those 2 108s, or they don't have their 1 copy of Suppression, it is, practically game over. But at the same time, you know, high risk, high reward.
Uses enemy contact instead of the production.
Yeah, I'm not
Keeps
sure why
going
you.
with the pin, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
he had so many low cost orders. It felt it was only a matter of time before he got that 1 damage to the 6-1. I agree with not wasting the pin. You had plenty of low cost orders to throw out random pings that it statistically had to happen, basically. And here we
Yeah.
go, big synthetic oil turn. We got a lot of cards. We got a lot of money.
Perhaps the justification is that Sai wanted to have the draw when he knows his opponent has a unit on the board, but enemy contact can target a friendly, I believe. So I don't think that was too much of a concern. Is this gonna be lethal? That is a lot of 3 or fewer cost cards, and you have credits for a comet.
He's definitely adding it all up.
Ooh.
12, one of the biggest mouths I've ever seen. 2 off lethal, but that is not a problem. Even if somehow Sai is able to do something with Mao's here, 1, 2, 3, and Comet is going to be able to put this away for Radish. We're going to see a
Well,
radar and maybe a fortification, because Sai needs some health here.
yeah, Sai gets another turn here with the naval power. The pin important, the heal equally important. Now, Radish obviously didn't know the amount of healing in Sai's hand. And by playing the Panzer 3H, that's putting a little more stats on board to prevent lethal. Although if you did go something like a Stuka to the HQ, that would have put a little more damage on the opponent. Ooh, another pin from Sai.
Yeah, Monty's going to buy more time. And you saw Radish with a very intelligent Alpenfesting. Understands that he kind of has the tools to finish this off. Just needs to make sure that his health total is big enough that he has enough time to finish this off. Mouse, of course, is going to be excellent at just sopping up a lot of commando pings.
Well, apart for this number 9 commandos being available for Sai.
Oh, yeah, no, that is an excellent point. That is certainly going to change the arithmetic here.
Now, if Sai goes for the number 9 commandos now, it does give Radish a small opportunity to find his 1 of suppress on the mouse to put it back to 10 defense, but he does not have it. And with only 1 ground unit on the board for your opponent, you can't really get anything done with Stuka.
But you can certainly do 10 damage a turn.
Yeah, but your survival is in question here. Now, no commando raid off the bat for Sai is really good for Radish.
Another #1 commando, I would have to imagine, yeah. Just possibly a little help for the future.
Yeah, Protected Convoy is amazing as a develop. Now, Sai has played a lot of healing. I kind of doubt that there's any healing remaining in that deck.
Yeah, does he have to chase lethal here? National Fire Service, not in his deck, I do not believe. And yeah, that's just not gonna be enough.
Yeah,
The
it's
Alpenfesten,
relatively close, but
huge. We're about, yeah, 8 out of 8. And we are going to a final game between these two players for our 3rd place match.
Sai has dropped 2 games on Commandos, and I think Soviets might actually be the hardest matchup of the 3 for Sai here.
Reverse sweep certainly in play.
Now, obviously, if you're Sai, you're keeping the War Machine. You can keep Royal Research. You know, healing is relevant, but Shibatas are also on the table. Wave After Wave is really interesting because it's such a good card in the matchup. Sai opts not to keep it. There's also consideration that if you are keeping the Royal Research, Wave After Wave gets just a little bit better because you're able to get the radar to your hand earlier on, and then on 6 credits just play the radar and the Wave After Wave.
Double Cone opening is going to possibly make this match much shorter. Pin and radar, though, looming large for Sai.
Already, I feel like Sai's probably thinking, oh, I really wish I had that Wave After Wave.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless he finds a carpet very soon.
Oh my!
And we're back to the wave. No zeros to set it up, though, so we're going to have to wait for a turn 7.
Production is in hand. You
Oh,
can
he does
play
have a production? Okay,
Wave
yep.
After Wave.
Yeah,
Which
absolutely.
I think it has to be the play.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like, your opponent runs Winter Warfare and Counteroffensive.
And there's also no point in taking 7 damage anyway. Like,
yeah, you know, production is great for Commandos, obviously. And, you know, it feels like a bit of a waste, but it really just isn't. You know, you're also limiting this recon to only drawing 1 card. I think it's the clear move here.
yeah, absolutely, I would agree.
Not a single playable card in the hand of Radish.
Yeah, truly some poor luck there. But we'll be able to get KV down, which is going to be a little annoying for Sai. Obviously, he's trying to cycle quite a few cards. And if Sai is able to get some commandos down, there's going to be plenty of rushes in hand. And those rushes are also going to enable the counteroffensive.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance You can kill this KV this turn with the Commando Raid, 4 credits left over. Baker Street has a lot of good hits. Something that would be quite funny, we don't see it, but for the King, a very rare card to see, but it would have actually been one of the best pickups here for Sai.
Yeah,
if he
or
could have found it.
is air power is still unrotated as well currently?
Yes, Air Power also would have done it.
Yeah, air power would have also been a very ridiculous. For those a little less initiated than some of our ancient players, of course, air power destroys any tank, and for the King is 5 damage to a tank. Really, really underutilized. I don't want to say underutilized, right? They're highly specific. They're not the greatest cards in the world, but would have certainly had a place today. That's going to bring it all the way down to 3 on the draw. And with 3 health left on the KV, we are dangerously close. You can't pin. Pin would draw. You'd be dead next turn. Well, with Monty, you can certainly pin with. Thinking about the Commando Raid. Sai desperately trying not to get reverse swept off the Commandos.
Ooh, does not kill the KV on the first use of the research. Oh! Okay, but he does find Protected Convoy, which surely
1,
means
2,
that
3.
this is
All
dead.
right. Yep, there we go.
And that's just lethal. That's criminal.
Yep. Criminal Commandos, once again, cannot be stopped. We're Montying nothing. We truly don't care. We're throwing out pings, asynchronous gameplay. Sai able to avoid the reverse sweep. Goes up 2-0, lets Radish come back, and then go ahead, put Radish down. Gonna go ahead and take our 3rd place match today.
That was just out of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and get ready now for our final, for what we've all been waiting for, a big match between Taboo and SYS. Let's go to J King and Bubbles, who are excited to bring that one to you.
We
Hello,
sure are.
welcome. Yeah, the excitement is palpable. We can't contain ourselves. No, we're very excited. We've had a pretty good day of cards. You had a pretty good day yesterday as well, but we are going to be bringing it to a end. Hopefully, a long end. Hopefully, a back and forth end. But you can never be too sure. We are going to take a quick look at the deck lists, and then we're going to get straight into it. We don't want to keep you back from the gameplay. Taboo is going to have their Britain US deck, which is Commandos. They're going to have their Japan Soviet aggro deck. They're going to have their German US ramp deck. And then they're going to have their US Germany ramp deck, sort of on the flip side. And then, J King, why don't you show me what we're up against?
All right, so from SYS, he has a Japan Soviet aggro deck, a German Japan burn deck, a Soviet Japan aggro deck, and of course the British USA Commandos. So we see Japan very favored by SYS. We saw US very favored by his opponent Taboo. So we'll see which one of these play styles comes out on top in the finals. Let's take a look at the bans. I figured we can already know what they are.
There you
Not
go.
too surprising.
AVB has been replaced by ABJ. Always ban Japan. This aggro deck is just so quick moving at the moment, and it has a reasonable amount of longevity. And then with things like Shibata, it's got a good amount of counterplay as well for the meta decks. Purely based on the decks we have left, who are you favoring here?
I think I favor SYS. I've been very impressed by SYS's play. If you remember yesterday, I was saying that a lot. I was very impressed by his play, and I think he just also has the safer lineup. It's very straightforward. There's not any risky decks in the lineup, unlike this USA deck from Taboo.
We also see a divergence from the German decks. We've got a Germany burn deck as well as a German USA ramp deck. I'd say the ramp deck has been slightly more popular, but we see both decks have reached the finals now. Which deck has impressed you more throughout the tournament?
The tournament, I think I've been more impressed by the German-US deck. I think it's a bit more versatile. It's able to win more types of games, whereas the German-Japan has a very straightforward playstyle, and when you hit the cards you need to hit, it looks unstoppable, but if you just go off to a bad start, it's really difficult to come back, and it's really difficult to sort of divert from that game plan. But we are not going to see a German mirror to start. We are going to see Taboo on the Germany-USA, and one of the things Germany-USA can struggle with is against these very aggressive starts, and that's exactly what SYS is giving us.
Yeah, I mean, having the War Machine as well as cards like the Michigan and Schutzen, it gives you a really powerful mid game, but SYS is just with this early game beatdown, not even waiting for the mid game. You're going to be able to put 4 damage into the HQ and a 3rd unit in the front line.
And this is what I like about the Second Marines. I think SYS is the only player who runs Second Marines in this tournament, but just the 0 op here means that with the turn 1 column, only 1 credit on the follow-up, turn 2 column, only 2 credits on the follow-up, turn 3 Second Marines, whereas something like the Scouting Party or the 276th just wouldn't be able to be played that turn, or the 276 wouldn't be able to be pushed up. Here, Taboo forced to just go for the turn 3 Flying Bomb. Doesn't feel great.
Doesn't feel great, and SYS outputting a lot of damage, has a reasonable amount of damage left in hand as well that they can burst out. They've got the SU-100s, obviously the Winter Warfare is going to be a little bit of extra damage as well, and then it will count as triggering that damage on the SU-100. So Taboo in a slightly awkward position here. Considering just going for the Michigan, this will buy some time, however, you will continue to take damage. You're basically saying you can put this back, play it again, but I'm trading 4 damage for it. So it's a very slow response, but might just be their only real option here.
Yeah, this Hipper on the SU is one of the only ways to stay alive on this turn. The other one would be to suppress the SU so you can't get the additional attack on it, but obviously that feels like a much weaker turn. So we're going to see the Hipper come out, and SYS most likely just going to do the exact same turn again, considering he has the same credits and the same hand.
I mean, when you're able to operate the units you have on board for free, the sort of blowout from this Admiral Hipper doesn't feel anywhere near as bad. Crossfire traditionally would be a really powerful card here, however, it's just a little bit too slow. Shifting attack is going to force Taboo to try and find some just something to stay into this.
2 credits draw, suppress is 1 credit draw, so going for the shifting attack just seems like strictly the worst option.
Would have to agree.
And finds the War Machine. Well, our players have no trouble finding turn 2 War Machine, but after turn 2 War Machine gets a lot worse, and we see this is one of the issues of running 4 War Machine in a deck. SYS taking a very quick one.
We also saw there was a turn 2 War Machine there, but when you're going second against aggro, turn 2 War Machine just isn't good enough on its own. You have to have some follow-up. And traditionally one of those follow-ups has been cards like the Crossfire, but one of the key things about this Soviet flavor and aggression is their units don't really have 1 health. We've got a lot of units with 2 and 3 health where they can brush off this AoE just a little bit better than the traditional Jaguar deck can. Now we see Taboo picking the same deck again, SYS switching over to their burn deck now, so it will be the Germany mirror. Buzzbomb gonna come out.
And the issue for the Germany-US deck in this mirror, or in this matchup, obviously very different decks, is just dealing with these high health infantry in the support line. They can be very difficult to get rid of, and if you can't remove them quickly, you only need 2 procs from a Second Marines until things are looking really hairy with Alpine Festering as the only healing. Now, Alpine Festering is in the hand of Taboo, so that's where you want it to be, but turn 3 Second Marines hitting the board with the help of this FW.
And we will get SYS hand available in just a moment. Taboo gonna go for the Turpits there, it does prevent SYS from developing more units onto board, and without any targets for these naval cards, SYS is either forced to south target, which they're gonna go for here to get the burn, or just hold them back. But yeah, they're gonna go for the south target.
And War Bonds means that this is a guaranteed additional, most likely 6 damage into the HQ. Now, Taboo does have the Alpenfestung, but Alpenfestung is most likely the only thing he'll be able to do on that turn. Maybe Narado. In combination, Turpits, even more damage, being more credit efficient with the turn. Unfortunately for SYS, it does mean this Alpenfestung is going to get more value out of it.
It will be more value, but you know, this Marine can output so much damage that even when you go up to 25 health, the threat of just being burnt out is still a very real threat. And SYS does have a pretty reasonable hand size still, so not in the clear yet. I mean, look at this damage coming out.
Both the Michigans and the 6k Panzer Grenadier and the Capitulation all lost from the Alpenfestung. Those are 4 cards that you definitely want to be seen in this matchup, meaning, I mean, you can hip her to bounce it, and you have 1 more Michigan in the deck, or not 1 more Michigan, you have 1 more 6k Panzer Grenadiers in the deck that can get rid of one of these, but that's not really doing much, and I believe there's 1 more Makura. Perhaps yeah, there should be 1 more Makura, which means that there is an additional 6 damage into the HQ,
also,
and completely out of healing.
With a large amount of production in SYS's hand, there's the potential for some very big turns. You can do things with production into mass draw. You can obviously do production to Bismarck as a classic one. The production lingering in hand from SYS is a real threat that means you sort of have to deal with this board a lot quicker, but Taboo does not have the options to deal with this board.
And 2 Enigma in hand, looking bad. 1, 2, 3s, nothing to really useful to turn into. I mean, maybe it's shifting attack to look for another order. Instead, goes for the production route, maybe looking for an Enigma.
Now we do get SYS's hand. We see a lot of threats in this hand here from SYS. With the shifting attack, if you find another Navy card, you are able to just do potentially lethal next turn.
This is just lethal. Oh no, it's 1 damage off.
Yeah, you need another Navy card, and then you are able to obtain it.
Any Navy card in the game but Bismarck is lethal.
Comet is a pretty good find.
Comet's lethal with double production.
Yeah, double production. So you're gonna play this Navy card, do 6 damage to face, go double production, slap down the Comet, and you are able to finish off Taboo in this turn. Taboo not able to keep up with this aggression from SYS. 2 games now. This Germany-US deck from Taboo has just not been able to stand its ground.
And I think this is why we're seeing the Japan-Soviet deck being banned each round, is just the best counter to the most popular decks in this tournament is just trying to put them under as much pressure as possible, trying to force their hand, and that's where these Soviet ally, Soviet main decks are succeeding, with Rush and Kolm able to either put on early pressure or counter early pressure, whereas these US decks with the War Machines, they get the credit gain, but if you're not able to follow that credit gain up with anything particularly special, it's going to be a rough going of things. And Taboo choosing to go to his US deck for his final stand to stop SYS from just sweeping the finals.
And SYS, once again, it just has to win a single game on Commandos. Has a relatively good hand, doesn't have the War Machine, but still a relatively good start.
This is the 3rd series in a row where we see someone up 2-0 with Commandos needing to be the final win. And in both the previous series, Commandos did eventually win. The first one was SYS versus Radish. He got the win with the second game on Commandos, and of course the third one was Taboo in the finals, getting the win in the third game with Commandos.
We do now see a very, very aggressive start here from Taboo, getting a 6-6 into the front line. However, we have seen that the card disadvantage from using this is no joke, and it has come back to haunt Taboo a couple times. They're obviously using things like War Bonds to try and mitigate that, but it has still been relevant. Not going to convert the damage just yet, just going to go straight for the ramp.
And how both players ramping up a lot. There was Crossfire to stop the first Commander raid, but 2 in the hand from SYS. And this wave after wave.
I fear as well this Commando deck has a much easier time playing from hand. There are powerful tools to play from hand for in Taboo's deck. There's things like Encirclement and 1-2-3s, but I just think the Commando deck is so much more consistent at playing from hand.
Starting with For Freedom. Okay, it looks like he was grabbing the wrong card. Goes for Monty. I was going to say, For Freedom on the 6-6. It does draw a card. It might be a bit ambitious. Chooses to pin it, draw a card with Monty, drop out the Fusiliers, and then gain more credit slots.
Now, Taboo does have the suppression to bypass this guard, but most likely you're going to wait until they are able to get some damage in straight away. Just going to go for another War Bonds. It is slightly awkward here. Putting this Bergman into the front line is not ideal. It's a very easy trade. Yeah, it's going to force out the duress this turn.
Now, Fusiliers is in the support line. A 3 Operation 08 is actually a bit of an issue now for SYS. There are a few cards he can get off of Baker Street Irregulars, though, that could make this a bit of an issue, though. If we see the chain home...
Currently, it's just getting in the way. Currently, it's just an inconvenience to SYS, but there is the potential there to get the chain home, or I believe it's
the
one
HMS
of the...
Formidable?
That sounds right.
Say. Yeah, the AoE, the make it attack equal to its health, and then it fights random enemies until it dies. That could clear up the board, and we're going to see if he gets that with the Baker Street Irregulars here. Picks up the number 10 Commando immediately. And Protected Convoy, okay. I mean, you can't really ask for a much better Baker Street Irregulars.
However, there is still... Never mind, board should be wiped here, no? Yeah.
There goes the board, and an additional 4 damage into the HQ.
Crossfire, very powerful here. It will be able to wipe away both of these commandos, as well as reduce the HP on that 08. Because there is still another Baker Street. There is the potential threat of the chain home. Obviously, you're not going to be playing around it, but any nice little bonuses you get, you are certainly not going to complain. Does have the option of actually holding back the Crossfire if you took that route. But I do think I prefer this. Second Michigan with the 1-2-3 credit production is very powerful, and you also have this pattern, which could just make the combo even more of a crushing turn here.
There are the... Oh, what is that? Big misorder from SYS, missing out on 2 pings, Commando last. That's the play that you see all the time on ladder, not the play you expect to see in the grand finals up 2-0. Perhaps the pressure getting to him, perhaps a misclick.
There is also the potential here, next turn now from SYS, to go for a carpet bomb plus wave after wave, meaning the P51 is not going to be able to really stop. Is not going to be able to stop the AoE. The AoE is still going to get rid of it. Going to opt to move it into the front line first to get that damage.
And this is going to be 2 P51Bs. The buffs will not trigger. However, that is going to be a big hand refill for Taboo.
It certainly will be. And yeah, I expect Carpet Bomb into wave after wave is the only real option here.
Yeah, anything else. If he goes for the Commander raids, these P51Bs, if they die in the order you don't want them to, it's going to make things very difficult. This is
gonna go for the Commando raid, though.
And you don't have Protected Convoys as in hand as a guaranteed follow-up.
And there you go. This one, it will survive. Gonna need to find a 1k order and then gonna
That's
need to hope
3
that
pings into the P-51B. You cannot ask for better, but there's no
there's
1K
no 1K order.
He can trade the commando, though. Somehow gets through that. SYS going for some
However,
incredibly risky plays, but he will lose
yeah,
both the commandos now.
I also argue that maybe the position you're in here isn't as optimal. We have Bergman and we have Devil's Brigade. We can do a good amount of draw as well as
And second Bergman,
good amount
is
of
that lethal?
damage.
Does he have credits for
No,
that?
the
3,
um,
4,
I
that's
don't think it is.
4,
When it's
5, 6, 7, 8. He has credits.
when 1, 2, 3's flips though, it doesn't get buffed again by Alpine.
Oh, that's true.
Oh,
that is true.
the Michigan though, the Michigan credits.
Oh, the
We're
two
just
Michigans, extra
completely
credits.
blind.
And that is Taboo taking it. And SYS, I feel like if he had pushed up the Fusiliers on the turn before instead of playing out the single commando, if he had gone for the double clear instead of going for the much riskier play, I mean, I suppose he would have died from that position regardless, because he did get the board cleared. But
I'm convinced that our players have a lunch meeting with each other, and that's why they're both playing so snappy here. They've got to meet each other for lunch, and neither of them has just thought, wait a minute, it's both of us. We can just cancel lunch, just delay lunch.
these turn 2 war machines are getting out of hand. Both players, 2 war machines and war bonds, a hipper in the hand from Taboo as well.
Although it is not to preach doom, but this is the Germany-US deck that Taboo has really been struggling with in this series.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen Commanders. You can beat Commanders once. You can maybe even beat Commanders twice. No one has yet to beat Commandos 3 times in a row.
However, I believe it will be a Commando Mirror. If you are able to win this, if you're Taboo, the Commando Mirror is a very interesting position to be in.
And, I mean, we've seen all 3 of the previous sets today end off with the final game having a big commando pop-off. And with Commanders versus Germany-US, and if Germany-US wins, it's a commando mirror. We're essentially guaranteed for all 4 sets today to end off with the big commandos.
It could be it could be a commando fatigue
Yeah, that's
match.
true.
We
We
could
could
be
have like both
the
players on
Rangers
3 health,
beatdown.
there's 1 commando pinging for 1 at a time.
And look at this Blackwatch. It is somewhat powerful here, but if Taboo is able to win this game, they then have to deal with a commando mirror against Blackwatch, which is certainly not ideal, although we've already reached the stage of the game where the mouse can come out, which is a fairly powerful card against commandos, being able to clear them no matter how much health they have, as well as leave a big threat on the board. Going to suppress the Blackwatch, and I'd be tempted to say get as many sort of threats down, not too many, but I think you want enough threats down where SYS feels forced to use this AoE.
And thinking about Hipper on his own Panzer H, gets to replay it so that he can look deeper for something like Comet, which is definitely the card you're looking for at this point. And it denies the draw, it denies the credit. And looking at SYS's hand, this Hipper works out very well, but obviously a bit of a risk to go for.
Not going to worry about getting the Panzer III-H down just yet. Going to develop the front line a little bit.
And I'm not positive that going for the fortification there was really the line. I don't think you're really under pressure at 27. I know this US deck can put out a lot of damage, but 27 feels like a safe health total to hold on to that. Finds the Comet. The cost of putting a 1-2-3 at the bottom.
You also have the combo, because you've got the Fallschläger in hand. 1-2-3s plus Fallschläger is a very nice combo, because you're able to play the Fallschläger and save the 1-2-3s on 0 credits for another turn. It means you can do some very powerful moves later on into the match.
Yeah, this is... I mean, I think I would have leaned towards picking the Comet there, personally, but this is probably the safer route. I'd like to pick Comet because I'm thinking if I can draw one of my other two 1/2/3s, Comet, 1/2/3 Comet, and I always forget the name of the card, but bounce it back to hand. That
Shifting
is
attack.
shifting attack. That is
It's
a
on the left
16
side of our
damage
hand right
combo.
now.
Yeah, so he only needed to find one of the other two 1/2/3s in the deck with Comet for 16 damage. Then picks the 1/2/3, which does give him some actually pretty substantial burst potential with Fallschirmjäger.
Gonna go for the Bergman. Finds another 1/2/3. Now we can move up this 1/2/3 to the front line, play the Fallschirmjäger, and then immediately start outputting a huge amount of damage with it.
And also, I don't think there's the credits for it, but you could also do 1/2/3, a 0 op 1/2/3, but then you don't have the credits to blitz it.
No,
when you
I
leave
think
your
I think
Fallschirmjäger.
the move is just cash in on this big damage. Unfortunately, again, credit issue because otherwise you could play the Fallschirmjäger, hit with these 1/2/3s, go for the shifting attack, reduce something else, and then go for the same move again.
Yeah, this is... I mean, he can put out a lot of damage, but this is the issue with Comet at the bottom of the deck. You're a lot less guaranteed in the damage that you are getting. Returns
Wants to
Fallschirmjäger.
hold it though. Doesn't even worry about getting it out again. Just wants to have it available.
And I mean, he with second Bergman and second 1/2/3 and Fallschirmjäger still in hand, he can just do that exact same play again. Now, unfortunately, Blackwatch in the front line and Blackwatch in the support line. He's going to throw a bit of a wrench in that. Can Schützen. He can, I think, 1/2/3 Bergman. Oh, he's just going to hold on to the 1/2/3, maybe play out a 7-cost War Bonds here. And the Commander raid finally picked up, and you just go for this. Even if you think, yeah, it's getting crossfired, it's getting moused, it's getting capitulated, whatever it is. I mean, you just kind of have to go for it because you have 2 Baker Street Irregulars in hand and pretty much nothing else.
And now a huge amount of commando damage coming out.
And that is Protected Convoy, again off of Baker Street. And this actually, with 2 productions in hand, this is lethal. This is just
And
straight
there
up
you
lethal.
go. So much commando damage. SYS taking the champion spot with commandos.
That's great. He even had 8 additional damage in the hand.
That's so much commando damage, and SYS storming their way through both days of the event, putting up such a good show and just really not holding back against any of their opponents, being able to take down some real veterans as well to push through and claim first place.
That is true. Taking some big scalps, taking down 66 better, taking down Radish on his way to this final. Taboo, no slouch either. Those are 3 veteran players, veteran tournament players with their own wins, their own successes. SYS saying, you know what, I don't care who you are, I am here to win. And doing so in a fairly dominant fashion.
Yeah, I mean, the commander deck as well. A lot of players take their strong decks early on to try and get a psychological lead. You win with your strong deck. It's one of the easier decks to win with. And then you're in a superior position. Your opponent fills up against the wall. But this commander deck was just being left every time until last. And it was just, yeah, I've got my commander deck. We'll play a few matches. At some point, I'll kill you.
And something that I want to point out about SYS's lineup is, on paper, if you just sort of look at the nation combinations, it's very straightforward. It's just sort of the most popular decks. It is just basically the most popular deck for each nation. You got the Soviet Japan, the Japan Soviet, the Commandos, and the I guess Germany Burn is the slightly less favored German deck from players in this tournament, but it's still meta by all intents and purposes. But if you actually look at his Commando deck, Commando, most popular deck on ladder, fairly popular deck in this tournament. Most players went into this and just said, you know what, there's the one way you build commandos. It's the way everybody builds commandos. And SYS said, you know what, no, I'm bringing commandos. It's a great deck, and I'm going to show my skill on it. I'm going to show its power, but I'm going to bring it in my own way. He's bringing carpet bombings, he's bringing Fusiliers, he's bringing Black Watches. This is something that nobody else is doing in commandos, and it worked out very well for him.
I mean, even this Soviet deck, you know, we've got the Kyoto Regiment in here, and we've got the 2nd Marines, which you were talking about earlier. In sort of all of their decks, maybe other than the Jaguar list, they are bringing something different to the table compared to the other competitors today.
Yeah, and that's a sign of a very strong player, is when you are bringing the meta list. You're not just like bringing out your own homebrews, because that's very rarely works. There's a reason meta decks are popular, but when you understand the decks, you understand the meta, and you can make changes to the decks that everyone are playing to just give you that slight edge. And it seems like he definitely got a slight edge in this tournament here.
Yeah, I mean, he played super well, but as did his opponents. You know, we've seen some excellent lineups, we've seen some excellent plays, and obviously there is more than just the finals. We've had a good 2 days of gameplay. So, you know, thank you to our players. We do appreciate them coming out and you know, showing off their decks and their skills. We had UIO versus Taboo, where Taboo advanced and made it all the way to the finals. We had Nuff against C. C managed to claim 3rd place in the bronze match. We had SYS against 66 Better. SYS went all the way to the end, and then we had Radish against Last Man. Radish took the 4th place, so wasn't quite able to get the podium finish, but still did some pretty good work for themselves. So thank you to all our players for joining us. Thank you to our other casters, you know, Berto and Thanatron. Thank you to the viewers for joining us. And then also to production for pressing all the buttons, you know, behind the scenes. But I think that's pretty much all from us. Any closing remarks?
Well, I'd say my closing remarks is we saw these players compete in this tournament, and there will be another expansion tournament following the next expansion down the line. But also, with these 4 players who have made it to the finals here, they have gotten some fair share of prize money, but also they have booked their ticket into the World Championship, so we very well may be seeing them again fighting it out in December.
Something to look forward to. But thank you very much. We will catch you all next time.